Hi everyone, Chimi here, back with another Transformers toy review. For the review today, here we have Autobot Grapple from the new War for Cybertron Trilogy Earthrise line. First, let's take a look at the packaging, since I have the packaging on hand. So we get the Earthrise logo, Autobot Grapple on the front. On the side, we get some nice artwork. On the back, we see Autobot Grapple in his vehicle mode. We also see how he integrates with Battle Masters. And then we have some nice artwork of Grapple. So a pretty nice box. I do find that this shape kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to store the box because it takes up more space. So I kind of wish that they'd just make it rectangular, but oh well, that's just me. The box is pretty nice. So, focusing here on the vehicle mode, we can see that Grapple is a type of crane truck, and a very good one at that. I really do like the older style truck look that it has, and it really does hold well together. There's a bit of a gap here, but other than that, it looks quite nice. And the crane here is functional. You can bring it back that far without it snapping off, and you can do a full 360 as long as it doesn't bump into my finger. So it's pretty nice, and I quite like it. I like this truck mode. I think it's very good. It's simple, but I like the simplicity of it. And of course, he rolls quite nicely as well. The second accessory is a type of claw, and here you can see where we can plug in the Battle Masters there in the middle. Now, if you want to store this in vehicle mode, you can put this in any of the ports. For example, you have one port here on each side, actually 2 ports on each side, sorry. And so you can plug it in there, or you can plug it in at the front here. And there you go, you have a claw on the crane mode. So now you can move that around and grab stuff. The third accessory we have is his gun, which doesn't store anywhere in vehicle mode, but we can plug it into any of those ports that we saw. I kind of like to plug it over here. As you can see, the gun has plugs on the side as well as down here at the bottom. So you can plug it into the side there on the ports and store the gun that way. Overall, I quite like his vehicle mode. I think it holds together well, and it definitely looks like a truck from the era of the original G1 toy. Well, as we know, this is a Transformer, and it's not all vehicle mode, so let's get into the transformation. The first thing I'm going to do here, and you don't actually really have to do this, I'm going to just plug off all these accessories. And then, what we're going to want to do is untab this crane section from the legs. This is easier said than done because, as Bolt Matrix pointed out in his review of this figure, this is a little bit tight. So I'm gonna have to pull this apart, and it's really tough, and I've done this a few times already, and it's not any easier. Oh, that one was actually easy that time. Okay. Maybe things are looking up. So, the next step, now that we have all this separate, you can see it's all hanging loose. So, we're going to want to bring this section down, and then we come here to the cab. We take the arms and we split them, and push them outwards, like so. Then we come back to the legs, you fold down the feet. Once you have the feet folded down, you're going to take this whole back section and bring it up and collapse it. Okay, so before you connect this last piece, there's a few things you got to do. The first is to collapse the crane. Then you want to rotate it and flip out the head. Now we're going to collapse this whole section and connect here. Then we take the crane and we collapse that as well. The next step, going back to the arms, is to simply flip out the fists, which can be a little tough if you don't have long nails. And here we have Grapple in his robot mode. Grapple in robot mode looks very nice and feels incredibly solid. There's not a lot of hollow pieces here, and it really is a wonderful figure. The head sculpt as well on this figure is very nicely detailed, very simple, but a very G1 style, and I quite like it. It's, like I said, simple, but very nice. Grapple overall, like I said, is a very solid figure, and with only a couple hollow parts, you can see there's kind of a gap here. I wouldn't even call it hollowness, really. And then in the feet, it's a little bit hollow. And here, of course, for the hands to be able to flip out. But overall, fairly decent and fairly solid. Now, with those 3 accessories that we saw him have in vehicle mode, we can also, of course, use those in our robot mode. So, with the nozzle here, we can either put this back on the crane, or we can flip his hands back to how they were in vehicle mode, and then plug this into his hand. And he can use that as a weapon. Now the next thing we have, of course, is the claw, and we can do the same thing with the claw, so we can rotate this out, put the claw there in his hand, or what I like to do is to bring this up and rotate around and plug in up here on top, and then have him use the crane in his robot mode. And actually, it doesn't really affect the balance that much. I can have it out like this and he'll stand no problem. I could even extend it and he'll still stand absolutely no problem. It's amazing. The balance on this figure is fantastic, and it does have that weightiness to it that allows it to have that balance. Now the last accessory he has is his gun. There are different places where you can plug this thing in. You could plug it up here on the crane part. There's one on each side, or there's one port on each shoulder, one on each forearm, of course his hands, one on the side of each leg. So you have a lot of places where you can plug this gun in. I just like to have him hold it personally, but sometimes I do put it up here with the port on the crane. Okay, so for posability on this figure, of course the crane can swivel, move up and down. We can also just move that out of the way. Head is on a swivel. Arm can do a full 360, hinge for outward movement, swivel at the upper arm, 90-degree bend at the elbow. Hands do not rotate, but I guess if you want to, you can consider flipping out the hands as articulation. Waist swivel. Legs can kick forward this much and can kick back this much as long as it doesn't hit the crane. Legs can also go out that much, so fantastic posability there. Swivel at the hip, knee bend 90 degrees. The ankles have a nice pivot and can also move forward or back a little bit. I suppose if you count that as articulation, that's really more for the transformation, but hey, use it, right? You can get some fantastic poses with this figure. As I said, this figure is highly posable, and it's just a fantastic figure to pose. One of my all-time favorites that I've bought in recent times. For size comparison, here we have him with Deluxe Class Prowl and Voyager Class Apeface. So as you can see, he's obviously taller than a Deluxe, scales in very nicely there, and is on par with the recent Voyager class size figures. So, should you pick up Earthrise Grapple? In my opinion, Absolutely. It's a fantastic figure. It's solid, highly posable, looks fantastic, and has that G1 aesthetic that I think a lot of us like. And it's a figure that definitely deserves to be in your collection. So guys, that has been my review for Earthrise Grapple, and I'll see ya in the next one.